What's up, and welcome to the Uncle Cyborg Show, where we talk about our favorite things about games while keeping it rated E for everyone. I'm Dat Boy Few. Next to me here, we got Super Nolan Man, Nolan Daniels.
Spook.
And down below, you know
Yeah.
him, you love him. We got the Hyrule King, Bo Mitchell.
Hey, spooky
Happy 50 subscribers.
Yes, this is our
happy
10th. It
50.
was going to happen anyway, but this is going to be our 50 subscriber special. Thank you to everybody who subscribed, watched us along the way. Today, we have our top 10 horror games. How this will work, we will each share our 3 top horror games, and that leaves only 9. That's because number 10, you guys will be deciding in the comments. We'll pin the winner. As it, we're only us 3. We're definitely going to miss a horror game or two, so feel free to comment which one we missed and why, and we'll be sure to pick the winner. Had that up to number 10. I always like looking at the comments because you guys like to share like games I never even heard of before, and then it's always nice to go figure them out and see.
I found a couple interesting games over the last year here.
Yeah. All right. Do any of you want to start us off here with our number 3, or I guess technically number 9 through 6?
So for my number 9, I guess my number 3, I'm gonna go with Dead Space.
Nice.
And specifically, I'm gonna go with the remake because that's the one that I've played through all the way. I have played the
Okay.
original as well.
Mhm.
The remake adds a lot of like nice quality of
Quality
life
of life.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really nice. Man, I had always heard that this game was like absolutely terrifying. What I like, this was like the game everybody always mentioned. Like,
True.
oh, like I can't play more than 10 minutes of it, man. That kind of a
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that scary, but I have a really high tolerance for horror in general. Uh, but I really love this game. It's super fun how they made destructible enemies that can still come after you.
Mhm.
And there's some pretty crazy moments where, like, especially that hallway scene, and it's really cool, like, looking into how they actually made that.
Yeah.
Like, there is some crazy technology in this game and how they pulled it off. Uh, and I honestly, I've heard that I need to play the second one. I've heard the second one is better, but I really like how the story went down, and it's pretty terrifying. Like, just the implications that happen with it. So it's classic.
Yeah, when I
At
first
this
got
point.
my, or when Matthew and I first got our Xbox 360, that was the first thing I remember looking into is what are the scariest games that I can play now that I've not locked to Nintendo consoles for the first time.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was always Dead Space and Fear 2. Never did get around to Fear 2, but Dead Space played through probably the first third of that game. And what's so clever about Dead Space is it takes the survival horror but adds a little more action element to it while still
Yes.
making those bullets count, because now it's no longer pick and choose which enemies to take on. It's you do have to take these enemies out, but you're going to have to do it correctly and with precision, and you're going to
Yeah.
need to keep your cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some pretty intense rooms like later on. It gets pretty nuts. If you don't have the right ammo for the right weapon, like you're gonna struggle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
I know this game at the time, like when it this and 2 and 3, were in their peaks. It was, I think, 2013. Andy had showed me it, and two things. One, this thing like set the standard for set pieces in horror games.
Mhm.
Like you said before, I've seen. I don't remember who made the video, but it kind of shows like how the workings of the scene go, and it's really impressive stuff, especially for the time. And this was like topping. This was, I mean, the it was nonstop in the horror game lists of like top 5 you
yeah.
could
Well,
place was all
correct
over it.
correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, this was EA coming out and saying, "Let's dump money into a horror game," or am I misremembering?
Oh,
Because
yep.
I mean,
They
the
are owned
outside
by
of this,
EA.
your big budget horror games before this were your Silent Hill games from Konami and your Resident Evils from Capcom, and they were the juggernauts at that time. This was EA coming in and saying, "Hey, what if we actually gave a big, you know, AAA budget to one of these horror games and see what they can do
Yep.
with it?"
Yeah.
Yeah, this game takes a lot of inspiration from Resident Evil 4. Set a lot of the groundwork, and then Up the ante.
All right, Big N, Big No, you want to take us?
It's me. I'll
for
do
your
it.
Number
I'll do it if you make me.
8 here. Yes.
It's your
Yeah.
number 3.
So my 7 through 9 slot game is going to be, and hey, hey, if we will, call me cringe. I'm picking the friendliest ghost story ever told. It's Luigi's Mansion from the GameCube.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to do it.
I
Here's the
love
thing.
this
At
game.
first glance, Luigi's Mansion seems like the least likely entry or least qualified entry on a greatest horror list because it's so colorful, charming, full of slapstick humor. But underneath that like cartoonish exterior, there is a real good haunted house sim in here.
Yeah.
And one that
It's got that Haunted Mansion vibes.
it does, and it really gets the fundamentals of tension and pacing atmosphere a lot better than even some actual serious horror games. But everything in Luigi's Mansion is put together to create curiosity just as much as unease. It wants you to explore it, and instead of it, which is a little different from the regular daring you to explore it. Like if you dare, it's actually a good introduction to things like Resident Evil. I mean, you get your single location filled with the puzzles and then your locked doors. But adding with it like the collectible ghosts and all the not necessarily side content, but the freedom that gives you with how deep into the Duffy you want to get in some of your encounters.
Collecting all the ghosts.
It's pretty sweet, and it makes fear accessible in a way that not a lot of games are well. They couldn't just count on scares to keep this game floating, so they really had to put everything they could into the gameplay and the presentation and the pacing of this game. And I think they absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, I think where they did well with it is their intention wasn't just to make a scary game. And I feel like that's why a lot of horror games kind of fall on their face, is that they're just the scares wear off eventually. That's why horror games are like 10 hours max. Some a lot of times.
Yeah,
I think what makes this one good, it's as a kid it scared me, but it's it's more of kind of like the ghosts are kind of cutesy little guys. It's all stylized, and it's not really like if you took away the his humming and scariness, and you turn the lights on, it's not really even that scary. But it's while you're you enter a room and it's dark and all of a sudden a ghost pops up, you get your little jump scare, and like some of the creepier rooms, with like the instruments and whatnot, I feel like they do just enough to, like, you're playing that at night. You might get a little bit unnerved a bit playing it.
Yeah. Some people may say it's baby's
with
first.
all the lights off. It'd be scary when I was a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people would say that this is baby's first horror game, but here's the thing: baby needs a first horror game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So my 97 here. This is a 2017 release. It's called Detention. So it's a side-scrolling.
I have heard of this one.
Point and click. It's a puzzle game. So it's set in 1960s Taiwan under martial law. It opens up. You're in you're in school, and then all of a sudden you fall asleep. You wake up. Everybody's gone from school. You go to leave. The bridge in town has been washed out due to what they would be a tsunami, I think, or typhoon they have out there. You go back into your school. Something happens. You wake up again, at your desk. Now you're in like a horror world. Ghosts and ghouls have taken over, and it's all localized, to the kind of their folklore and whatnot. You're just a high school girl, and you gotta explore your way around. You solve puzzles and you learn different things. It does great. It's great art direction, great use of darkness. I feel like horror games, I feel like don't really take advantage of that a lot. So you'll enter like a room, and it'll be lit, but it'll be the lights kind of in the middle, and then towards the edges and the floor, you kind of have a lot of darkness. So you never feel like, even if you're in a safe room, it feels dark and oppressive, and you don't want to be there.
Like effect.
Yeah, and they've got great characters, I don't ghost ghouls, monsters, whatever you want to call them. They have some pretty unsettling scenes in there as you're, you know, I feel like everybody's had that dream where they're, at school by themselves, after dark. It feels just like that for, a good chunk of it. They have a mechanic where, certain ghosts you gotta like kind of hold your breath and walk by them so that they don't get you. And it's not one of those games where, you don't run from the ghosts, you don't really fight them. You just have to kind of find a way to get around them. And I feel like that's something that isn't done a whole lot. I feel like a lot of horror games just kind of want to either throw an enemy at you and make you have to run for safety, or you have to kill it. And I like that this one makes it, you just got to find a way around them because they'll just kill you if they get to you.
Yep.
All right. Would you guys like
All
me to
right.
go back around, or you want to go back to you, Bo, first? I guess it's not a draft. We'll go back to you.
Yeah, it's not a draft. I'll just do the next one. So for my number 2, I'm gonna go with my favorite Resident Evil game, Resident Evil 1 Remake. Oh man, I absolutely love this game. It's definitely my favorite Resident Evil game. And I love all the Resident Evil games a lot. There's just something about 1. It has that like mansion vibe. It almost, in some regards, it's kind of like Luigi's Mansion, but like the adult version in some regard.
Hey,
Because it's
yeah,
all about
yeah.
it's all about the mansion, and like it has those puzzles. But the enemies are like so much more scary. I love how in this version of it they made the zombies so like if you kill a zombie but you don't burn it, it can turn into a crimson head, which is even faster and they do more damage. Like that is such a cool idea. And it makes you really think about like what you're doing. So many bullets.
Yeah.
Like, okay, am I gonna take the risk of this one turning into a crimson head? I just gonna like try and get around him, and take the risk of him maybe biting me. So, and yeah, it has a ton of just like spooky vibes, and I love how in the remake version they also added the story with Lisa Trevor, which is super creepy and very sad. Really messed up stuff with that. It just has this like vibe. It's hard to explain of like this like uneasy feeling like the entire time you're in the mansion, which I think a lot of horror games miss is the vibe.
Yeah.
Which is something I really dig. So, and it still holds up really well, surprisingly. Probably one of the freakiest things about it, just like as a shout out, if you ever want a challenge, turn on invisible enemies mode. Oh my word.
That sounds terrible.
It is terrifying. Oh, it is terrifying because you don't know where they are at all.
Is that required for the platinum?
Yes.
Mm.
So you can kind of tell because you can see them in mirrors. There are some mirrors.
Oh,
That's
that's
pretty
actually
cool.
pretty cool.
And then there's like some shadows. So like certain lights will give a shadow, and you can sort of see the shadow.
Okay.
But it really tests your knowledge on the game, which I find really fun. So
Yeah. Would you consider them, if they had more platforming, to be a Metroidvania?
they kind of have some of that vibe because you have
But-
to get the keys or get the items. So
Yeah,
similar,
lock
but
and
more
key dungeons.
Yeah.
But maybe it's actually Zelda like, just kidding. But some pretty sweet puzzles in that first Resident Evil game. It's rare that somebody knocks it out of the park on their first at bat.
Yeah.
And they really did.
Absolutely
And
amazing remake.
Mm.
For one, like
Mm.
it still looks really good. Like, yeah, pretty crazy. Randall,
All right.
what you got?
I guess that brings it to me. So for my 4 through 6 pick, I'm gonna take you to a little developer called Silicon Knights, and after releasing Blood Omen Legacy of Kain in the 90s, which
Absolutely
got
wild.
a
They went
pretty
from that to this.
right. Yeah, 'cause you go through this gothic action RPG, which I mean,
Great game.
definitely dark and a morally complex, but they have this legal dispute with Crystal Dynamics, who was just they were a publisher at that time, and they're pushed out onto their own, and then somehow somebody at Nintendo sees the potential in Blood Omen and is like, "Hey,
Yeah.
can you make a game for us?" And then here we are with Eternal Sanity or Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, and
Such a cool game.
yeah, yeah. Obviously, we got to talk about the main thing, the sanity system. One of the coolest mechanics in horror game history, because
I love it.
if you're not familiar with it, as your character's sanity drains, you see things that chip away at your sanity. You see, oh, this thing is not quite right. This changed since last time it came around. That's kind of weird. Or you see something that just straight up frightens you. Reality begins to unravel. You'll get weird camera angles. You'll get you walk into a room and it's just a different room entirely. Blood will start dripping from the walls. I remember playing this on a CRT and the volume going down on my CRT, except wasn't actually my volume. It was just the game was saying that it faked system errors. It deleted my save allegedly, or was saying like my controllers unplugged and stuff like that. And I go to plug it in when I go to I plug it back in, and then it pops up with a jump scare. It kind of finds it way after way to like it feels like the game itself might betray you. Like if it's one of those things where if it had not existed, a creepypasta would have been made about it at some point.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet, and even though some of the tropes of the game are definitely done over and over, and the combat is nothing to write home about. Your playable characters and the way they actually weave this together, and make all this sanity stuff actually mean something, came together really nicely. There's a reason that this is still considered such a cult classic. One of my favorites, and one of the few games that I was like I mean, even it gets very like Lovecraftian at the end. One of those where there was never a moment where I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. It kept me just intrigued enough that I didn't want to skip out just because I was scared.
Yeah. Who would have thought like one of the best horror games of all time would have come on in it, like the GameCube,
Yeah.
Like arguably the most.
That's also
I guess,
where RE1 Remake launched.
Yeah.
GameCube was pretty awesome.
Yeah. For one of the more like kiddie consoles, I think it's funny that they had so many good horror games on it.
Right.
But speaking of cult classics,
all right, what you got?
This game I had heard about it, but I never actually like looked into it until probably 2019 maybe. So I'm gonna pick the first one, and it's Fatal Frame. So for those of you who've been living under a rock and never heard of Fatal Frame, it's a Japanese, it's survival horror. It takes place in a kind of like an old style Japanese haunted mansion. Basically, I think it's your brother goes out there for something. You lose contact with him. You find his camera, and you find that when you look through, there's ghosts. And so the point of the game, you gotta to deal with the ghosts. You gotta point the camera at him. You have to take pictures of them as they're getting close. So it kind of like forces you to confront the thing that you're scared of in the game. It's a very scary and oppressive atmosphere. This is probably the only game I ever played where I actually like kind of like felt a little sense of dread playing it. I would argue it might almost be too scary. I know that sounds something weird to say, but I think a lot of it comes from it uses Japanese folklore. It uses real life like spiritual rituals and stuff, and it also takes inspiration from real life crimes. And so you're reading these newspapers that you find of things happening to people, and as you're piecing it together, you just kind of get an uneasy feeling, and then you progress a little further, and you kind of have to start like little ritual altars and stuff, and it is a very frightening game. And after a bit into it, like a good bit into it, I had to put it down because that you really feel not good playing it. Like you kind of feel like I should not be playing this game right now. But I credit where credit's due.
I could see where that'd be really freaky. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a what you would call it, I guess, a cult classic. It was such a cult classic that until within the past 5-10 years, it wasn't even on a lot of top horror game lists. It's a relatively newer
Yep.
addition to those, considering it was out 10-15 years before it actually started getting recognition. All right.
So should we do the honorable mentions now, or
Yes.
All right, I have a few of those. I'll be brief. Yeah. So I'm gonna call out some of my favorite Resident Evil games. Obviously, I didn't want to put all of them on here because then it would
Mhm.
just be all Resident Evil, plus the one that's up my number one. Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 4 remake, awesome games. Love these a ton. Definitely like some of the best remakes out there, and pretty freaky. Also, a special shout out to Resident Evil 8. Easily like one of the most terrifying experiences is in this game that I've ever had. If you've played it, all I'll say is baby scene.
I
You'll know
looked
what
it
I
up.
mean.
It is.
Yeah, Matthew looked it up. You'll know
Ugh.
it's in the second area, like the second main boss area. If you know, you know. I won't spoil it because it's a newer game. But oh my word.
Yeah, it's frightening.
Yeah. Yep.
All
That's
right.
my honorable mention.
For my honorable mentions, and I considered multiple mentions because I wanted to get all cutesy with this, right? I thought about talking about the Slenderman, or I think it's Slender the 8 Pages, something like that. I remember playing this game when it first came out, and when looking back on it, it says
Pretty
it
iconic.
came out in 2012, but I feel like I could swear that I played it earlier than that because the group of friends that I played it with. Because I remember my friend Cody going to one of his friends' house, and they had a shed set up separate from the rest of the house on the edge of the property, and they just wired internet into there, and we played it in
Oh, funny.
there in the dark with just trees all around us. And that was one of the most terrifying horror experiences
That would
of
be
my
freaky.
life. I didn't even want to walk back to the house afterwards. That was not a good time. But even aside from that, I want to get really cutesy with it and do like Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare, which definitely deserves a shout out. I mean, everything that they did in the horror and supernatural side of this was so fun. I mean, collecting the Four Horsemen and everything, so cool. And the one that I really got to give a shout out to, and the reason that these aren't on my list is because it's hard to call these horror, but the one that definitely Slenderman, but that's a quality issue. But BioShock, it would be like my definitive
Love that game.
honorable mention here, because as much as like that game is to me is better than anything else I'm putting on this list here. It's not quite horror, but man, does it nail atmosphere better than any game I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, that game took me forever to get figured out. I mean, it will get figured out because I kept running into like, I don't want to progress because I don't know what's around the next corner there.
Yeah.
But it's
Right.
at the same time, it lured me in without, I never felt like they were bullying me around or anything like a lot of
Yeah.
horror games do. It is an action first game. It is a first person action sim kind of thing. So anyways, a fantastic game.
piggyback
Your
on
reason
that-
it's on this list is because it's not horror enough.
To piggyback on that, great
Yeah.
having you and scattered intermittently just a couple enemies in like this big giant city. Great touch. The first time you see a Big Daddy is pretty.
Oh yeah, that's
And you're like, at some point,
walking
I'm
on
gonna
the
have to
other
fight
side
this
of
guy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm glad he's
For
Boy, I'm
Yeah,
sure glad
really
that
great
he's stuck in there
cinematic
and we're
shots in
out
that
here,
game.
and I just remembered we're in there. And my question now is, where's the Big Daddy?
yeah.
Sorry.
And I think that's one reason I think Thriller might be the perfect blend between,
Yeah,
'cause I feel like a lot of times horror can they kind of it always feels kind of maybe puzzly, or you kind of if you're like Outlast or something, kind of like body horror and jump scares. But I feel like Thriller really is a sweet spot where it's more realistic, like a fear of this just a big guy that I'm gonna have to
Mhm.
get around.
yeah.
Was that the end of your honorable mentions?
Yep.
All right, and I'm
You
sorry if
got
it's
some honorable mentions?
I'm sorry it's going to sound repetitive, but we're going to do another Resident Evil. It's the horror game franchise aside from Silent Hill, so it's going to get a lot of mentioning.
Yeah.
But Resident Evil 7, if you want, like, what a great setting for a horror game. An old,
Yes, I love Resident Evil 7 too.
country house on the bayou. The house alone, they could take out all the enemies. It would still be scary. Especially if you play
Yeah. Oh my word.
I don't know if it classifies as a demo or something. The thing that came out before where you kind of play that first tape out.
Yeah.
That
Mhm.
was incredibly scary too. The reason I didn't put on the list, back third is really not scary. It's more of just like action, regular old Resident Evil 5, but with Resident Evil 1 controls.
Yeah.
It's so it does that. They do some other things that kind of take you out of it, but the tapes, getting to see how to solve the puzzles, and that kind of that eerie, like the birthday room and stuff like that. Great memories with that as well.
Oh man.
And
Yeah.
that'll be my one honorable mention, I think.
Not going to go into it, but if we're counting demos or potential lost media, very loose term here. But also shout out to PT.
Oh yeah.
Again, doesn't necessarily need to be on
Absolutely
this list,
crazy demo.
but I'm just excited to see what Kojima and friends do with this OD anthology series that hopefully we'll get to see starting next year.
It's gonna be feet.
That's all for me there.
It's gonna be feet.
Ooh, I'm a ghost.
Peter's scary.
Pop the piggies out. There you go. All right, Bo, take us away with our 3 through 1 here.
All right. Well, I have to mention one of the best psychological horror games ever made. I know it's been talked to death. I
Mhm.
still absolutely love this game.
Five
Silent
Nights at
Hill
Freddy's
2,
Oh, Silent Hill 2.
the original. I haven't played the new remake yet. It's on my list to do. I've heard it's not quite the same. Man, I just love this game.
Mm.
What an absolute trip. It's so like bizarre, which adds to like the creepy like unease that this game has. And the whole time it's just playing with you. Like some of the shots in this game too, like the iconic scene with like him at the mirror just going like this to his face. That game is just a mood. Like you can't even it's so hard to talk about because it's been talked to death, but every time I play that game, it's like, man, this is what I want more of with horror. Just like get into that like real psychological, like like you're basically deconstructing James as a person. I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't played it if you somehow haven't played it at this point. But like, man, I know this has also been played to death, but like absolute cinema. Oh man.
Fair.
Yeah,
It is.
it's definitely a bit dated, like combat wise, which I've heard is something they fixed with the remake.
Mhm.
But even then, like if you love a good story, this is like one of the best stories out there. So
Yeah, I feel like there should be more games. Where the emphasis on like big emphasis on the horror is like the setting. I feel like they kind of you get into a lot of like yeah, you're in the scary house or whatever, but I really am a fan of the like the kind of the town, I guess, being like they did in Resident Evil 2 as well. Where you're having to explore a larger area, even and maybe not a larger map, but a larger area. I feel like it does a better job of making you feel truly alone when you're playing versus if you're just in a
Mhm.
like I'm in a mansion, yeah, and I'm by myself, but it's it's still just a house. Versus if like I walk outside and there's no one out there, I feel like that does a lot
Yeah.
for a game. But my one complaint:
Yeah, and that's the cool. Oh, go ahead.
how am I supposed to know that a vacuum, a puzzle, and a toothpaste is going to help me open the door? There's a
Yeah, I mean
there's
that's a
an
lot of
infamous puzzle in that
horror
game that
games.
makes no sense. For you to put it in a plot that makes no sense. So that's just a
Yeah.
little tongue in cheek at the game there.
I think that's one thing that's really unique about Silent Hill. It just like in general is like the town takes on the personality of the person. And there's like all these subtle references of like, okay, what is going on with this town with James?
Yeah,
I love that. I want more of that.
there's a reason it was like the horror game from when it came out until you know even now it still has a huge following.
Oh yeah, it's still talked about.
You don't get a
Yeah.
remake as a horror game unless you did something really well. Or you're Capcom, you have
Yep.
a lot of money and you just kind of throw it at your Resident Evil franchise. But
Yeah. Capcom does a good job most of the time.
yeah. All right. Nolan,
All right, Nolan.
your
What
last
you get?
one.
All right. In my number 1 through 3 slot, speaking of storytelling, I'm picking a game that is all about storytelling. Literally,
I
it's
love this
Alan
game
Wake
too.
2. And
Man,
here's the
what a
I could have
great
picked
game.
Alan Wake 1. Alan Wake 1 does so many cool things. I mean, I think it nailed the episodic nature more so than Alan Wake 2 did. I love,
Yeah.
love the farm scene and your rock show that you do. But everything that I loved about that game felt so much better in Alan Wake 2. What
Yeah.
a
And it's
fantastic game
way
this is,
creepier.
but it so much so, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
they really nailed the slightly survival horror kind of thing. It is much more puzzle horror than it is survival horror because there is some sections where uh the action is much more intense action than it is survival horror in a lot of ways. But the boss
True, yeah.
fights were incredible in that game.
Oh yeah. I
But
love the
but
final
the
but
but the puzzles and the way you go about the discovery in that game and getting around this idea of finding clues about what's going on in the story or making connections with different characters and saying, what if I place that character here and then suddenly I've accidentally placed Mr. Scratch somewhere and then I'm really in trouble. And that's exactly
nice
what
reference.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. But man, I mean that I mean, plus there's certain highlights in this section. I mean, everybody knows at this point, and I'm not spoiling anything, but Herald of Darkness is incredible as a sequence. I wish
Yes.
I could show that
Oh,
as a
man.
demo to every gamer, just to say, like, just give them a little build up. Here, plays this 30 minutes here and just enjoy how crazy this is. But even things like the neighbor
Yeah.
of the neighbor of the beast chapter where you're in the hotel, and that section is probably the most terrified I've ever been playing a game.
Oh yeah, that's a
But
good part.
and getting trying to get out of there afterwards. But again, it's you are experimenting with the different things. You're saying, what if we wrote the story this way? What if we put this character at this location here? Or what if we change the setting completely?
Yeah.
And the way that this creates like you traversing the place, like it's completely blocked one way, so I got to change the story a little bit to get myself where I want to go. It nailed it start to finish. Plus you get this little bit of like the SCP kind of style
Yeah.
of like now they're bringing control into it. You have this Remedyverse opening up, this whole multiverse.
Yeah,
Like the
absolutely. And that's
potential of this series going forward is
limitless.
I mean, the sky is the limit. I'm so
Yeah.
excited for what they have coming forward.
Yeah.
After
I
you need to play
absolutely
this
love
game,
this
it's
game.
free on PSN right now.
Yes, you need to play it. This is like the best horror game in recent years. Like absolute must play. I love this game too.
Yeah, I'm a big Alan Wake 1 fan. I remember one of my favorite scenes. Spoiler alert: somebody calls you regarding a certain event, and you go to meet them in like the top of a mill, and you get stood up, and so now it's nightfall. You're stuck in the middle of pitch black in a building, and you gotta get out and survive. So they've always done good on that. So I at some point I'm going to get around to Alan Wake 2.
Alan Wake 1 is great too.
Yeah.
Kind of game, but still great.
When you're done with Pokemon, you gotta play Alan Wake 2.
All right.
You just gotta play that game as soon as you can.
Sorry. All right. My number.
You got it. You in particular have got to see some of these sequences. But anyways, go ahead.
All right. My number one. So what's like one of your biggest fears as a kid, right? It would be like just being
Pooping my
alone in
pants
general.
public.
Yeah, that too. Pooping your pants in public, but also being like, I remember vividly. I had a dream where I woke up, like it was a nightmare. I woke up, I ran to mom and dad's room, and they were gone. And it's because
Oh yeah,
it's because
that's terrifying.
so and it's because they'd gone to work and we were with a babysitter. But I ran in, and that initial moment of like I was like 8 maybe. I still remember it like it was yesterday. But there's a game. It's called Yomawari Night Alone. It's released in 2016. It's kind of the art style might fool you. It's kind of like a cutesy chibi kind of anime-ish art style. It's a top-down adventure game. But basically, you're hanging out with your dog. Your dog dies, and so you go home, and you and your sister go somewhere. Bloop bloop. A certain event happens. You wake up back in your bed. Oh, it was just a bad dream. You find your sister's not there. Your parents aren't there. Nobody is in town. It is just you, and so you are having to, as a little 8-year-old girl, you're having to go explore this rural Japanese town. There's regularly like ghost looking ghosts. There's dogs that can come out and get you, and you're trying to have to go through a neighborhood. There's a school. There's like an old construction place, and you're just having to go through this town, and you're having to not only find scary monsters, but you're also having to kind of dig up a little backstory about certain things so you can kind of give a couple like ghost peace in a way. They do a good job of nailing like you can't actually beat these guys. Your little girl. So there's a mechanic where certain ghosts you can just kind of have to crouch down and hide, and you hide your head, and the ghosts you'll feel them like on top of you. They're like controller vibrate, and then they'll leave, and you can get back up, and you can go running and stuff. I've heard its sequels are technically better, but I think this one's just great because if there's something about just me, and you just hear like the crickets. That's it. You walk around, you'll see it's a little actiony. There's times where you have to like dodge or sprint away from things, but I think just the overall like having to be a kid and explore, town, have to deal with all these, and some of the ghosts can actually get pretty freaky looking. I can put some in, I'll have some up, and I can show you guys some on Discord. But that is a pretty. It's not maybe the scariest game ever, but I feel like it just sets such a good mood and atmosphere.
Nice. Yeah, I've never heard of this one.
I just looked
cool.
this one up while you were talking about it, and I need to check this out. I love the art for one, but this seems like a really good time.
It is. It's short. I think it might be 4 hours long, maybe. I'm
Oh wow.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
rip
it is
something
really
out
short.
of my maybe four or five. I'm trying to I haven't played it in a few years, but there is the one thing. Sometimes the puzzles aren't super obvious, and there's one specific action sequence where I remember dying several times because it feels like you're just not fast enough for the event that's happening. But outside of that, the story of having to go find your sister, and just it
Ooh,
really
that's
is
a
just
big
you.
spider.
You never, some games you're alone, you'll meet like a person or something. There it's just you, and it is if I were to play it in the dark, it'd probably be a lot more scary than just throw it on the TV and play it. But it is the art
Yeah.
style and the setting make it really enjoyable.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
I'll have to check that one out. That sounds really awesome, actually.
Yeah, if you
I'd probably really like that.
if you get it on sale for $5-10, I think it's
Cool.
definitely. I think it might be 20 normally. All right,
Okay.
that is our top
There you have it, everybody.
9 horror games. Remember, number 10 is going to be decided by you guys in the comments. Which ones did we forget? Have you played any of these ones that we've talked about? Yeah, again, thank you for the 50 subscribers. We really appreciate you guys watching and hanging out.
Woohoo!
I'm that boy Few. That's the Hyrule King. That's Super Nolan Man.
I'm being attacked by a spider.
And we will catch you guys on the next one.
Game.